Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Happiness Journey with Dr. Dan podcast, where every journey is worth living. My name is Dr. Dan, and I'm your host for today's episode. I'm a bilingual neurolinguistic programming and cognitive behavior psychotherapist specializing in anger management issues, both court-appointed and private, marriage counseling using the EFT method, dissociative disorders, narcissistic personality disorders, depression, anxiety, dream analysis, and also provide life, business, and retirement coaching support. I provide individual one-on-one session in both French or English, and also do group settings. If you need any assistance, reach out to DMV Therapy and Coaching Services at 301-325-1550, and our website can be found at lifecoach.drdanamzallag.com. Today, I'm very excited to have for our fifth episode of season 17, a very special guest and managing Autism Rock and Roll, Sam Mitchell. And just like every of my past episode, I will leave it up to the guests to properly introduce themselves, as no one can do a better job. Sam, the floor is yours.
All right. So hello, everyone. My name is Sam Mitchell, and I run the podcast Autism Rocks and Rolls, and it is about autism and how we cope with daily struggles that you may or may not understand. I've ran it since October 2019. Some of my biggest guests I've had are Dr. Temple Grandin, professional wrestler Mick Foley, along with many other amazing people that are America's Got Talent and American Idol contestants, people from the Food Network, actors, but through the podcast, it's grown so much. We developed sponsors, a nonprofit with a board of 8 speaking engagements. I've spoken in Oklahoma, Orlando 3 times, Canada, Stuart, Florida, Washington, D.C., and events in Indiana, which is where I'm from.
Beautiful. Well, thank you so much for being a part of this podcast. Autism now, as you know, mental illness is really a big, big topic that we see all over the world, especially after the pandemic, and especially those who have dealt with the issue of isolation. So, first of all, how long or when were you diagnosed with it's Asperger's syndrome, right? You got?
Yes, sir. Yep. I was 4. I was 4 years old and I was diagnosed.
Okay.
And it basically just showed the classic symptoms. I mean, it was textbook 101. I mean, I think a doctor knew right off the bat I was on the spectrum.
Okay, and so throughout your life, when you were like growing up, now Asperger, we know this is the highest functional of autism. So, how did you deal with school? Did you have difficulty in making friends and socializing? Did you have difficulty in?
Oh, yeah. I'm in college and I still struggle with that.
Sorry?
I said, yeah, you're not wrong on socializing. I'm in college and I still struggle with that. So socializing, yes, I'm not particularly the best at it sometimes. I mean, I just get nervous when I do it. I have social anxiety, generalized anxiety.
Okay.
And some of the symptoms I've had with autism are I have foot and mouth syndrome. I definitely do think differently than most other men and women out there. And I do have a sensory processing disorder. I mean, I don't like my t-shirt wet. If it ever does get wet, it's coming off. I
Okay.
really don't care where I'm at. So I can manage it to a point, but eventually we got to change clothes.
Okay, I see. So how do you manage when you say you have some sort of anxiety disorder? So how do you manage to do public speaking? How do you manage to be able to be in front of an audience? Because that kind of like contradicts the anxiety part of it.
Oh, I did it for a long time, but after you learn once when you realize not the key to life, in my opinion, is not caring what others think of you. And once I learned that key, life got so much more easier and more manageable.
Okay, so now when it comes to bringing awareness, what is the role of your podcast? You just bring people to what message are you trying to convey with your podcast and with the people that you bring in?
Well, my only rule with coming on the show is you got to have a story. That's it. If
Okay.
you survived a car, if you survived a car crash, you're qualified, man.
Okay.
But I do try to bring the mainly autism clearly. I mean, I do speak on autistic behaviors about thinking differently, but I want to make the podcast very inclusive as possible. That's my goal. So I've done a lot of where I've explained my certain behaviors with anger issues. Like you said, you are an anger
Management.
management therapist. I
Right.
got some anger issues. They're not bad, but I won't lie, I can be a hothead.
Okay.
I'm trying to think of what else here for you, so I don't sound smart at least. There's something else. There's a lot more out there. And my communication skills. So it's not conversing skills, even though they're a little off too. It's communication skills. So the eye rolling, your body language, et cetera, facial expressions. Yeah, I don't read those. And interpersonal communication skills, while they're better, I still don't know how to take it sometimes. So, for example, if we start talking about Christianity, I have nothing against people who are Christians, nothing at all. I just cannot contribute because I don't know nothing about the Bible.
Oh, I see, I see. Okay. So I'm sure that you've watched with Tom Cruise and the movie Rain Man. Now, is it do you know a lot of people who are falling in the autism spectrum, which is the genius part of it, like those who are very good in mathematics and physics, etc., or like autistic savant? How does it fall, or what kind of portion of the population do fall in that category?
Oh, I definitely fall in that category, man. I definitely like to study professional wrestling. That's mine, but we know others to study other things. We can look at examples. One example I could think of from America's Got Talent, Cody Lee, blind and autistic. However, you put him in the front of a piano, it's magic. There's stuff in his brain. I swear that it's a switch. But once you speak to him outside of America's Got Talent, from what I've heard from other contestants, he's basically a child.
Oh, wow. Okay. So that's, I mean, but what's going on in the brain now that you are actually living it and experiencing it? Those sudden switches that you feel, are they like very prompt? Or are they gradual to the point where when you interact with some people, you will feel that those symptoms are popping up quickly?
They're sudden. So, I mean, for example, I mean, I was at Florida once. I don't know how this happened, but somehow a janitor's broom, it was wet, and I think it was out in the hallway. I'm literally walking down the hallway to go speak. The broom just swept me under my shoe, under the feet, metaphorically, because it literally got my shoulder. So it swept my shoulder, and I'm thinking, uh-oh, I gotta go back and change. There's no way I can go speak in this. Nope, not happening. And finally, it managed to dry off, but I had to go to the dryer and dry it off a lot of times.
Okay. And do you have any like OCD tendency where you have to wash your hands 100 million times?
Oh
Or
no, not
no?
OCD. No, it's not. I do have some OCD tendencies, but it's not like where I need to wash my hand a million times. But if things, mine is if things don't match. So if it's a structure that doesn't match. So for example, we have to write critiques of my show. I
Okay.
always insist that it is in a red pen format. I don't accept any other color. It's in red pen.
Wow, this is very particular.
Yeah, I'm not that OCD in life itself. Like, okay, I'm not like right now doing a podcast. If the internet screws up, I'm not like strict, like, oh no, oh my God. But if it comes to family, my education, and the job, which is my podcast, yes, I'm very tendency OCD on it.
Okay, I see. So when it comes to, let's say, the part of your education, Sam, um, do you feel that because you are OCD, so everything has to be done perfectly, and that in itself delays you?
Yeah, yeah, I'm in college right now for broadcasting, and my professors already figured out I'm a perfectionist.
Okay. So, but how do you do now with assignments? Do you feel that it's never really good enough to be able to submit to the professor, and then because of that, you're late on
No,
delivering?
I tell late. I just get nervous to turn it in. I just get really nervous to turn in. So I'm now having an extra pair of ears listen to it, and which is a good safety net, and I think a safety net that is needed for me, or otherwise I would be too afraid to hit that submit button.
Oh, I see, I see. Like the okay, but online. So, all your courses now, what school do you go to at this moment, Sam?
VUs in Vincennes, Indiana, they're really good. I've heard it's actually one of the best programs for people with special needs.
Okay.
So if anyone's listening to this and you're in the Indiana area, come to VU. You won't regret that.
I won't definitely. But so what is your plan now from this point forward when it comes to your career? Are you going to continue with broadcasting content?
Yep.
Uh,
Yes, sir. I continued it for now. I'm looking forward to my project. I don't mind telling what's going on in school. I'm going to record a podcast about the history of rock and roll music from each decade. So the 50s rock and roll, the 60s rock and roll, the 70s rock and roll, the 80s rock and roll, the 90s rock and roll. Out we go. Have a nice day.
I see, I see. And but when it comes to like your direct environment with your friends and so on and so forth, are you like in a specific group of autistic individuals, or you're just like making friends with whoever wants to be able to interact with you?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, I'll make friends with anybody, but it's funny. I mean, I don't mind interacting with anyone at all. But I think because of the universe, we can call it maybe, or fate, most of my friends are on the spectrum or have a condition.
I see, I see. So what do you do to have fun, Sam? I mean, it's if it's not in school or doing your podcast, what really passionates you?
Oh, I mean, the thing that passionates me is pro wrestling, making these events clearly. And I'm definitely a country boy. So lived in the country. So growing up in the country at my grandparents, was a big freak we used to play in. So as a child, so you can imagine me as a country boy doing that. Definitely like the outdoors of me. I mean, I used to drive these a lot, but not anymore. But I have this fascination of four wheelers. I actually do like four wheelers.
Okay.
And something else, I mean, definitely like country food. So chicken, ribs, brisket. I mean, they're all I know people eat them all the time, but I think they're, clearly from the south of Texas. So you can imagine the southern side of me.
Okay.
And trying to think of what else here I like to do for fun. I mean, I like to go out to eat. So Texas Roadhouse, Olive Garden. I mean, definitely like all of those places.
Okay.
And for fun, something else I like to do is, I mean, is I do hang out with my buddies as much as I can, even though it's hard to do some days.
Okay.
So definitely enjoy that. And then I also enjoy we're gonna call them small venue concerts. So concerts that maybe are like in a bar or in a small area or in a theater, maybe. Okay, I like those, but not one in a Ruoff Music Center in Noblesville, Indiana. That's the size of that could fit over 1,000 people. No, 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 no.
Okay.
Because of the crowd, I don't like big crowds.
Okay. Are you
Hate it, hate it, hate it.
are you claustrophobic by any chance?
Am I claustrophobic?
Yeah.
No.
Are you not? Okay. So, but you,
If I'm a guy who hugs people, I'm definitely not claustrophobic, dude.
okay. So, but you still have anxiety when you're around a lot of people. Is that correct?
Correct. And plus the problem is it's afraid of me stealing. So right now we're having a one-on-one conversation, right? Your attention right now is all mine. Let's add 10 people. And I know you're not going to talk to me all the time. You're going to talk to me. I'm going to talk to this guy. Oh, you're going to talk to this guy. I'm going to talk to this guy. No, I'm going to talk to you, man.
Okay, I see.
So it's shifting conversations too, you want to call it. It's like, who do I talk to next?
Yes. Okay. Okay. So multitasking is not something that you can easily do.
No, I'm not a multitasker. One thing at a time, bro.
Okay, I see.
And when I tried, I always forget something.
I see. Okay. So, what brought you to start this podcast, the rock and roll one? I mean, it's how long have you had it, and what brought you to talk about music?
Since 2019. Now the rock and roll, that's just a school thing, but the Autism Rocks and Rolls is just my podcast in particular. So that podcast began after I joined my high school's media club, and I fell in love with it so much that I started to realize I wasn't going to be a senior in high school forever. So I figured the best way to continue my media skills was to not only go to college, but to start my own podcast, and that was when Autism Rocks and Rolls was born.
Oh, great, amazing. Now, for all of our listeners, I know that many do not know the challenges of those dealing with autism. Um, how would you, or what would you kind of like tell our listeners about the best way to be able to approach someone who's autistic, or even to be able to make them feel welcome? Because obviously, autistic people will be more reluctant to develop new relationship because of fear of being judged or whatever it is. So do you feel that there's a way to be able to interact with them that makes them feel more welcome?
Well, definitely do some research on it. And honestly, know that we're not trying to do it on purpose, but maybe even go along with it. So maybe next minute you're talking about bubble gum, next minute's pizza. Why not talk about the pizza now instead of the bubble gum?
Okay. And the topics like that we need to bring up to because we don't know what the autistic person is passionate about. So it's very hard to really kind of start up a conversation to say, hey, how do you like bubblegum or how do you like pizza? So is there a way to be able to make them feel like is there like a specific angle that we should take this?
The specific angle. I
Yeah.
don't really get what you mean, bro.
Okay, so for example, when let's say you interact with an autistic person, will they automatically tell others what they love doing, what they're passionate about? Will they be open about that versus more?
Oh God, if you meet someone with autism, you're going to meet the most open person out there. So
Okay,
you have person A and person B. Person A, they're going to go on a date. They're not going to tell you if they're nervous. They're going to just try to figure it out,
yeah.
do the date, end the story. Person B will do it, but he'll tell you right after you hit the car, how you feeling, man? Oh, I'm nervous as hell.
Oh, okay.
Like there's no filter. There's no filter for those on the high end and in the low and middle end too. But yeah, no filter. So just do your best to respond and follow along if you can. And if you can't, we understand. We try our best. But then there are moments where we just might need to be taught. If you want, like, no, hey man, we're talking about bubble gum, not pizza right now. Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, I see. Okay. So the
Help us out. Don't push us off the diving board. There's a lot of people on the spectrum that are too nice for that.
yes, I agree. That is true. Have you watched the show Love in the Spectrum? The
I haven't because I don't have Netflix. Although I want to, I
okay.
don't have Netflix. I have Prime Video, so I literally can't. If it was on Prime, I would.
Okay, I see. Because I did watch this show. It was quite interesting on how people who are in the autism spectrum, how they date, how they interact, and it's very interesting conversation that they have. I mean, sometimes you will know that there's something that is oh wow, it's interesting what they're talking about, but it's very repetitive. So do autistic people repeat themselves very often, even though the conversation has been occurring a few minutes prior?
Oh yeah, yeah. They're not afraid to talk about something for 24 hours. Mine was professional wrestling, and their special interest is what it's called, which means the interest that they love. It's the basic definition. But they're not afraid to tell you about LA Knight, which is a pro wrestler, or a certain food if they love cooking for 24 hours. And yes, they'll repeat about, hey man, or about salmon, 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 salmon. The same fact over and over. Now, clearly, it's going to drive you insane, obviously. So I'm not saying it's a strategy that's acceptable. I'm saying it's a strategy that we need to work on, and that's going to require patience with.
I see. So is it one of the main symptoms that someone can know that this person is dealing with autism, or is
Yeah,
it
yeah.
many hundred of them?
Oh, that's many hundred of them, and here's a good way to test it too. You and I are having a conversation right now. Put a person in here with autism who's trying to say, "Hey Sam, hey Sam, hey Sam, hey Sam, hey Sam."
Okay. So this is okay. So this is basically how it operates in the mind.
Yeah,
Okay.
they can become very not annoying on purpose. They don't mean to do that, but very pesky, unintentionally, clearly.
Okay, I see. So for just before we conclude the actual podcast, what would you tell people about when it comes to self-awareness in the field of autism? Would you encourage them to learn more about how to manage and how to deal with someone who is autistic, or even the parents of autistic child?
Oh yeah, definitely. We need autism advocates and parents. I think is their job to advocate for you, but also the children need to self advocate for themselves because as adults, I mean, they're going to give you some sources, but I think our mental health system is very broken
Absolutely.
that we need more sources. But because until we get there, we need to self advocate. It's very aggravating that people won't give it to us because they think you should go to us now. Maybe they're right to a point. We probably should speak up for it, but we shouldn't have to battle with it. We shouldn't have to fight with insurances for a resource.
I
If that
agree.
makes any sense.
I agree.
But I agree, as adults, we need to speak up for it. So definitely encourage your children to, as they get older, speak up for what they need. And they're not sure for accommodation, ask for help. I know ask for help is the hardest thing to do
Okay.
because you're afraid of making them mad or, making the professor like, oh, well, too bad. It's the law.
I see. And what about the National Association of Autistic People? Do they offer a lot of help in that regard to be able to direct you in different places or resources that you can utilize?
I can't answer that question because I haven't looked into that one much. But I know our local Monroe County Autism Foundation, which is in Bloomington, Indiana, they definitely give you resources. So they've had people on the spectrum who have non-speaking autism, which means they are great, but they just don't speak. They'll provide little devices so that the person can speak.
Okay, like you mean like
I can think of I can think of one of them we doing for special needs night. The kid was non-speaking autism, and he kept hitting his iPad, and he kept hitting chips, 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 Dr. Pepper, Dr. Pepper, Dr. Pepper. That's clearly stating chips and Dr. Pepper, and that's some other advice I can give too. Is language is not everything. Is it preferred? Maybe in some cases, sure, but is it needed? Nah. There's other ways to communicate in the year 2023.
yes, I agree with you 100%. Well, I am sure that a lot of people that are very, very curious about how to manage or how to deal with children, their own child that have autism, and especially when you're just newly diagnosed, because that starts when you're just born. I mean, the doctors can actually notice that when the child is around 3 or 4 years old, or when is actually the limit of age that this.
Pretty much any age, I think, but there are different tests out there from what I know.
Okay.
So, I mean, the tests are different for each age. It's still going to be different from a person who's getting tested at 3 to a person who's getting tested at 25 or 30.
Also, do you constantly have to get retested to determine if you actually have autism?
Oh, no.
Oh,
No. I got tested once and they knew I got diagnosed with it permanently. Great. But if someone, okay, if they're 20 years old and they're reevaluating their life, they're like, man, I think I'm on the spectrum. Their test is going to be different from my test at 3 years old.
I see. Okay. That makes sense. So sometimes they will not be able to notice any sign up until they're 7 or 8 years old, even though there's some kind of triggers that may bring some doubts, right?
Right. Because some kids are kids. I mean, I know a certain family member who was very young, did a lot of hand stimming, which is this, and that's a trait with autism. And I thought maybe, oh, he might be autistic. However, he doesn't do it anymore, and I just think that's because kids are kids.
Yeah,
So
I agree with you on that.
and that's hard too. You gotta figure out, are they just being a kid, or is it because of a diagnosis?
You make a very, very good point. Well, Sam, on that note, that is all the time that we have for today's podcast. I really appreciate you taking the time of your very busy schedule to join us. And thank you again for participating and inspiring our many listeners with your incredible knowledge in autism. Now, we hope that you've all enjoyed today's episode. And I'm so very excited about the many upcoming guests that we have scheduled for season 17 of the Happiness Journey podcast, filled with inspirational stories, just like the one that you listened today. Now, here are some concluding words of wisdom. Embracing life with autism is a unique journey filled with challenges and triumphs that make you stronger every single day. Remember that your uniqueness is a gift and is the mosaic of differences that makes our world beautiful and diverse. Embrace your strength, nurture your passion, and know that every step you take is a testament to your resilience and determination. Your journey may have its up and down, but your spirit shines brighter than any obstacle. Keep moving forward. Keep believing in yourself and never forget that you're capable of achieving greatness. You are not defined by autism. You define what it means to be extraordinary. My name is Dr. Dan Amzallag, and you may all keep pursuing your amazing journey in life.